Okay, so we have a super special guest today. You are our first official Folktown guest, CJ.
That's fun.
Oh my God, it's like she's our first resident. She's our first resident.
She is of Folktown. So we have CJ Dotson, the author of The Cut, which you were, first of all, thank you so much for getting us advance copies. We felt so cool.
Yeah.
Happy to.
As a bibliophile, like, this is a dream come true.
Yeah. So again, thank you for the books, but we also, I don't know if you know anything about our podcast, but what we do is every season we pick like a different town or city in the US and we dive into like their creepy folklore. So this kind of just fell right into our wheelhouse. So we were super pumped that you decided to come on today. But if you want to just kick it off and tell us a little bit about what The Cut's about, we know because we read it, but
Sure. The Cut follows Sadie Miles, a woman who has just discovered that she is pregnant, and it has forced her to come to terms with the realization that she cannot spend the rest of her life with her abusive fiance. So she waits until he goes to work and packs up herself and her daughter from her previous marriage to her late husband and flees without really a plan. She just goes when she finds the impetus to do it. And she winds up at Larpin Hotel, where she gets a temporary job as a housekeeper while she waits until the new school year rolls around and she can start applying for teaching positions again. And she convinces the hotel manager to let her and her daughter stay in the hotel for a couple weeks while they get back on their feet. And she thinks that she's really like landed in a good place after this bad running away. Except on her first night in the hotel, she sees somebody drowning in the hotel pool and she runs down to try to help, and when she gets there the water is empty, it's totally calm, and her manager says nobody's been that way all night. And she's never going to let anybody tell her again that what she's seeing or experiencing or feeling isn't real. So she starts to dig into the strange occurrences going on around her at the hotel with nowhere to go and no backup plan. She discovers things are not as they seem in Larpin Hotel.
Ooh, that was good.
It's so good. And the setting is, well, it's technically Ohio, but it's in the Lake Erie area, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I grew up in that area, so I based a lot of the lakeside setting on places I used to go in real life as a teen and in my early 20s.
That's perfect, because I was just going to ask, what was your inspiration to write this book?
Yeah, so there's a beach that I used to hang out at all the time that unfortunately now has eroded to the point where they had to close it because it's not safe anymore. It's a beach that's overlooked by this looming power plant with floodlights that light up half of the beach. I just stole that setting entirely from this place I used to go.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I loved the visual of that. It's so good.
I'm kind of into like hybrid pretty / ugly aesthetic stuff. I'm from the Cleveland area, so you kind of have to be. But that beach, my friends and I all called it The Cut. I don't know if everybody did or if that was just what like my local area kids called it. And I was there one night with a bunch of my friends, and I was on the pier, and nobody else saw it, but I absolutely saw something bioluminescent under the water. And I'm sure that there are freshwater bioluminescent things, but I didn't know about them, and I thought it was super spooky. It kind of, have you ever been driving down the highway at night and you see somebody toss a cigarette out the window and the cigarette hits the pavement and the embers scatter?
Yes, absolutely.
It looked kind of like that. Like it was a point that scattered. It was a point of light that scattered separately under the water. And I filed that away, and years later I was trying to think of like what's the next book I'm gonna write, and that image came back to me, and I kind of just built the rest of it around that.
That is incredible. I love it.
You just answered like all of our little nerd questions that we had in one story. That was so good. I was being a creep on your Instagram this morning in bed. And first of all, I love that you have a cat named Noodle.
That's 6 amazing. Cats, so.
Ah, yes. We love that. We're animal people. But I saw that you did these eerie place submissions, like had people send them in. The grocery store one was so weird.
That's a true story.
It's a true story?
Mm-hmm. That grocery store thing really happened to me and my husband a
Wait,
couple months
that
ago.
was your story. I thought
That
that was
one
a
was
submission.
mine. Yeah, no, that
Oh
one was
my
mine. That was
gosh.
my true story.
Can you tell them? Because I don't think they read it.
Yeah. So there's a grocery store near me that is it's like a small like mom and pop store. It's not like a hole in the wall, but am I getting like weird feedback on you guys' end too? I'm sorry.
No, I
just
hear
got
you
that
fine.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry. So there's a grocery store near my home that's sort of a small, like locally owned business. And we go there. Okay, it's not like close enough for us to be regulars there, but it's close to our pharmacy. So we go there, pop in and out sometimes. And my husband and I were there, and he was looking at, I don't know, and I wandered into the pasta aisle. And he came around to meet me in the pasta aisle, and he looked a little perturbed. But he doesn't like being out in public, so he kind of always looks a little perturbed when we're shopping or something. So I didn't really think much of it. And he was looking at the red sauces, and I hate red sauce, so I just popped over to the next aisle to grab a couple things and came right back. And when I came back around the corner to meet my husband, I full on did not recognize him for a second. He was the only person in the aisle, and he didn't look any different, but my brain just slid off of him. I did not recognize him. I did not know him. There was no familiarity. And then it passed, and it was just my husband. We've been married for 10 years, and we've been together for like 12 or 13 years. It was just him, you know? And so I said, "Oh my gosh, the weirdest thing just happened to me." And he looked at me kind of sharply. And I'm still walking up to him. And I said, "Yeah, when I came around the corner for a second just now, I didn't." And he like grabbed my arm and he was like, "Wait, you didn't recognize me, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it turns out that when he had come around to meet me in that same aisle, the same thing had happened to him. That's why he had been looking kind of wigged out for a second. And that happened 2 more times that we were there. We didn't really try to split up too much more after that. But while we were there, that happened to each of us 1 more time. It happened to me when he went to the produce section to look for avocados, and I caught up with him because I was looking at something else. And then it happened to him again when I had just finished paying and I was waiting by the exit. He had gone to the bathroom, and when he came out to meet me at the exit, it happened to him again. And then at that same moment, as we're leaving, we were like so ready to be out of there by then. There's an elderly man who worked at the store, or at least an elderly man wearing the like uniform and apron of the store, and he was sort of coming at us with this like kind of intensity that I found a little awkward. So I was really aware of him as we were leaving. There's this shared hallway, so you don't just like leave the store. It's one of those like it shares a hallway with like a bank and a liquor store. We're walking out, and I can hear this guy's like shuffling footsteps coming up behind me, and it's there's an urgency in his footstep. My husband's a couple steps ahead of me, and he keeps glancing behind us, so I think he's like noticing this guy too and just making sure that it's not something weird. We get outside, and I look behind me one more time, and the dude is leaving, and um and we go to our car and we're loading up the groceries, and I kind of glance through the windows of the car to see if I can see the guy, and I cannot see this guy anywhere. And I turn to my husband and I say, "Where did that old man go?" And my husband goes, "What old man?"
Oh,
And I
dear
said,
Lord.
"The old man who was following us out of the grocery store." And my husband goes, "I didn't see anybody." And I said, "I saw you look at him like 2 times." And my husband says, "No, he looked behind us because he could hear the footsteps, and it sounded like somebody was way too close to us. So he was going to turn around and ask whoever it was to back off, but he didn't see anybody there to ask." And that's there's not like a cool ending to the story. That's kind of just where it ends, is that like the
Did you
grocery
ever
store
go
is
back
creepy, but I like
at a
it.
different time? Or was that the one and
That
only
was
time?
the same trip. That was the same trip.
No, I meant, did you ever go back again after that?
Oh yeah, I've been there other times, and I've never the worst thing that's ever happened to me other than that there is that like I have I have this problem. I can't like I don't even like if my husband and I are kissing, I time my breath so I don't breathe his breath. I don't like breath. I can't. And I was at the same grocery store a couple of weeks ago, and I asked the guy, "How are you doing?" at the checkout, and he answered me, and then I took a breath to respond to his answer, but I didn't realize that at the end of his answer he was going to heave this long sigh, and I breathed his sigh into my lungs. But that's the only other bad thing that's ever happened to me there. Arguably worse than a ghost.
I was going to say that's the worst part. Yeah.
That's
so creepy.
That is wild. It's almost like you were part of another dimension there.
I was just gonna say
That is
that.
what all of my writing friends said too.
Yeah, like there's
Also-
a portal, some kind of.
Yes, like those back rooms. Dale's son is obsessed with back rooms right now, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god. When I read it, I was
So
like,
is my
CJ was in a
son.
back room.
Yeah.
So I just have
that's
to like double back to the story and your experience on the pier there since now I know that was real. Did you ever delve into any of the Lake Erie folklore as part of your inspiration into writing this book? Because when I realized and when I saw that the setting was Lake Erie, of course, I immediately was like, okay, let's look into Lake Erie folklore and see what comes up.
I think that for me, because I grew up pretty close to the lake, and when I was a kid, I had like a terribly overactive imagination, and I could scare myself so bad. That sort of was always background stuff for me. I didn't really ever look super deeply into the folklore around that area. But I know there's supposed to be like ghost ships sometimes, and there's jokes about the Lake Erie monster, and so it's fun.
Oh, okay. So that didn't have anything to do with your creature.
No, those
Love
I
that.
just wanted to be.
This creature
Also,
is all
I
your
do
own.
just want to say, yeah, the tentacles. When we were reading it, I was like, tentacles by themselves, they're like the creepiest things. There's nothing. Tentacles are just creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am terrified of. I hate this word because it just doesn't sound like a natural plural, but octopuses, octopi, right? Either
I think
or.
there's like several different ways you can
Yeah.
pluralize octopus.
Yeah,
I
either
think
way,
I think
I hate them.
Yeah.
They are
I
evil.
don't know. I actually love them.
No, they're aliens. I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me otherwise.
You should read
Nope.
Sister Maiden Monster by Lucy A. Snyder. It's really good.
Ooh, okay. I will
I
read
just
it.
read it. I just read it on Wednesday and Thursday. I haven't sat down and like read a book cover to cover in so long, but I was traveling those 2 days, so I didn't have like the whole family thing.
so nice.
So I just read the whole book cover to cover, and it was such a fun ride.
That's
Octopuses don't bother me, but squids freak me out. The Humboldt squid freaks me out. Bad guys.
But to me, anything in water, I actually have a legitimate fear of water. So when this book arrived, courier delivery, and I opened it, I was like, oh goody, a water monster. Sure, I'll read this.
Yeah. I like when we opened up the box, we didn't really have anything going into it. We weren't really sure what to expect. So when we opened up the box, I immediately loved the cover art.
It's a great cover.
Yeah, it's excellent. And I'm a big, I have an obsession with cover art as well as like the actual physical book. So the hardcover red book is just stunning. And like the tiny lettering on the spine is perfection, as well as like the paper used for the pages. I love all of it. I'm like a book nerd when it comes to that. Like Amanda and I both probably, and maybe even Deena too. I love the smell of books. And
oh God, yeah.
this might be weird, but the smell of this book, like a fresh book, and it like creases when you open it, was perfection. I really enjoyed it.
If they can make that into a candle.
Exactly.
Right?
But you
Yes,
can't bottle that.
please.
You can't bottle it. But anyway, I loved it. I thought it was
So you're just gonna have to buy a lot of books all the time. That's all.
which
We
is,
do.
Yeah, exactly.
Deliver
I
with
have
books
no
and
problem
Yeah,
with that.
as a man.
The one thing I do want to say on the style of the book, the page numbers at the top with the little X, that is so good. That's so good. Just from like a layout standpoint, I was like, that looks so good.
I was grocery shopping at a not haunted grocery store when I got the email that had the first like proof pages and like what it was going to look like inside, and the little X with the page numbers. I was like, I love that. And I was like crying. I like hid in like one of the Walmart grocery aisles, and I was like, oh my God, it's real, like staring at my phone.
So
I love
with you saying that, how involved were you in the process of like having the book made? I'm just curious because I've never actually spoken to an author about that process. Like, how does that kind of come to be? Like, are you super involved? Or are you kind of like hands off, like, hey, just do it?
So I have a really cool publishing team that really knows what they're doing
Yeah.
and are super good at their jobs. And so they send me stuff to approve, but I've never had to not approve anything. They've always, so the process is I'm involved, but I have not been driving it. In fact, when they were first designing the cover, they had asked me, "Do you have any ideas about the cover?"
Mhm.
And I had one idea that I made like a really, really embarrassing mock-up of in like Canva
Mhm.
because I can't see pictures in my head, so I couldn't just like imagine it and tell them. I had to like make it so I could see it and then tell them, and then I just sent it to them also. And it was like my idea was like if you open the book, on the front would be the hotel and like a stretch of lake between, and on the back would be the power plant.
Hmm.
And they when the next thing I heard about covers, they sent me that and another cover like that the finished cover
Yes.
that you have. Um, and they were like, "Yeah, we tried your idea and it really didn't like give the right vibes. But we think that this cover with the drain and the tentacle, they were like, we think that this is great." And I was like, "I agree. That's way better than anything I could have thought of." And so my cover designer, my jacket designer, her name is Olga Gerlich, and she just did a phenomenal job. And I love my cover. It makes me so happy.
That is
It's so
incredible.
good.
Thanks. Have,
You're
like,
getting ready to go on your book tour, right? So you're probably going to be doing a whole lot of that.
a fair amount, yeah. A lot more than I'm kind of a homebody, so any amount of this is more than I'm used to. But
Yeah.
my next event is this coming Tuesday in Ohio at the Barnes& and Noble where I used to work. Is where we're
Oh,
having
you
my
worked at
official
Barnes and
launch
Noble.
party. Yeah, I
Oh,
miss it so bad.
that's our dream. All of
Oh,
us. That's our dream.
it's such a and I've worked at two different Barnes and Nobles, and the one that we're having my launch party at has hands down the best management team I've ever worked with in my life. So the turnover rate's also really low. So even though I haven't been there since the pandemic, a lot of the people there are still my
They're
friends,
still your
and I'm
friends.
so
Oh my
excited to see
goodness.
everybody. Because I live, like I said, I'm like way upstate New York now, but all of my like IRL friends and family are in the Cleveland area, so in Ohio. So I'm really, really looking forward to this as like
To
a big
seeing
party to see
everybody.
everybody. Yeah,
I love that you're doing your launch home at
I'm
your
so
store.
excited for it.
I loved also the keychains hidden around the store. That is so they're so cute.
Thank you.
They're
The
supposed to be
one,
spooky, but
the only the one has like the key and the Larpin Hotel key tag on it, and I've already promised my son, my 9-year-old, that he can hide that one, and he
he
is
gets to hide
really
that one.
excited.
That's
He's
like
really
the Willy
excited.
Wonka golden ticket
Yeah.
of the I'll just ask this quick question because I know that we've only got you for a few more minutes, but I see this as a TV miniseries.
Oh,
And
that would
like
be
with
cool.
Sadie and like the red hair, I was like, oh my God, Sadie Sink was made for this role. Like I just see like a
Oh, yeah.
really, I don't know, I just see it in my head. The way that you write, it's so visual that
Thank you.
like it felt almost like a screenplay. Like I felt like I was reading the beginning of a TV series. I think it would
I would
be,
love that.
I mean, it has everything about it. And because the creature isn't, because you're not using some fantastical creature, do you know what I mean? Almost
Yeah.
like when you watch like a Paranormal Activity, there's no thing that's like that would never happen. It just feels so real. That's how I felt reading this. I was like, this is, tell me this is not real. This could happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I totally see it.
Oh, thank you. I like, of course, like, you have daydreams about
Of
like,
course.
what if, you
Yeah.
know, and it's, I'll catch myself like having these daydreams and then being like, okay, CJ, like, calm down. Like, that's so unlikely. And then there's another part of my brain that's like, wasn't it so unlikely for you to get a book deal in the first place? And so then I start getting my hopes back up, and it's this like constant war of like tempering my hopes and or
No
or
way.
like
This
when the
falls
paranoia
in.
hits, like stop trying to stop the paranoia. I'm trying to keep at like an somewhere
Yeah.
level.
Like the what are they, like the imposter syndrome. You're like, I could
It's bad.
never have a TV series. Wait, I wrote a book.
Yeah,
It's published. I did the damn thing.
it's crazy.
You should be very proud of yourself. It's so
Thank
good. We
you.
were so pumped. But yeah, I can totally see it
Oh, thank you
as a
so
TV
much.
series. And the reason I say TV series is like it would be a great movie too, but like I'd want more. I just feel like, a little selfish. I'd
I
want
feel
more than just
like
one movie.
I feel like limited run TV series are just the absolute like pinnacle of cinema and film and TV in
I
general.
agree.
Like I
I
think they're the
agree.
best.
Like, because it gives a shining vibe, you've got the hotel, you've got I mean, everything that you want in a good limited TV series that's a little bit creepy. Because they've done that with a couple of Stephen King's books. So I
Yeah.
feel like this could happen 100%.
I my like barely dare to speak it because it feels hubristic, but my like biggest daydream would be a Mike Flanagan adaptation.
Yes. So I do just want to bring up the fact that, like, I think my favorite part about this story is that monsters are real, right? Like, there's a real monster that Sadie has to compete with, but also the fact that she's competing with the monsters from her past. Like, there's such a great parallel between the two of them. And, just the way that you approach a pretty tricky subject. Um, you did a really good job of showing how the parallel just proves it. She's not strong because she left. She was always strong. She always had that strength in her. And because of that, like, she's not going to be a timid woman who backs down from anything.
So happy to hear you say that because one of the things I really wanted to get across with this book is I hate that phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It makes me incandescent with anger. Because it feels, the more you hear it, the more it feels like it's giving ownership of your strength or your survival or your perseverance to what hurt you or who hurt you. And that's so demoralizing and disempowering. Um, and I think that a much more important and more true thing to say would be that you have that strength in you and you can find it again in spite of what didn't kill you.
I
And
love
that's one
that.
of the things I really wanted to get across with this book. So I really, it really just made my heart happy to hear you say that.
There's enough damsel in distress stories out there that paint women as this fragile thing. And, like, I mean, that she has the strength in her just from the beginning. And when you flash back and there's that one chapter, I think it's called October or last something October, and she's so worried that he's found the pregnancy test, and she's running up the stairs because he says, "What is this?" And it ends up being Izzy's covered in, I think it was toothpaste, right? She's covered in toothpaste. But that gave me that heart palpitation, like like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I felt so nervous and so stressed out. And I was like, this is so good because this is the real life horror. And then she's got the monsters at this hotel. And she's just a badass. Page one to the final page. You can just feel
Thank
it.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You write women very well, like a woman.
Funny
you,
coincidence about that.
yeah. I saw that you have another book coming out. How is that going?
Yes.
How's that process going?
So that one I have already turned it into my editor and he got back to me and was like, "Okay, let's try to like tweak this and maybe add some of this or that or the other thing." And I did all of those major developmental edits and sent that back to him and it's those revisions have been accepted. He loved them. And so now I was told recently that they're starting to talk about cover options and I'm sure that they're going to be getting copy edits to me at some point pretty soon here. Probably I'll probably get those to work on just as soon
Yeah.
as I've gotten past debut paralysis and gotten back to trying to edit whatever
Yeah.
like my next manuscript is. Probably as soon as I've like found my flow again is when they'll be like, actually, work on this. And I'll be like, okay.
Is it because I saw that you're part of the Horror Writers Association,
Mhm.
which is like the coolest, like, I don't even know that exists. That's so freaking cool.
Thank you.
Is it falling back
It's
into
neat.
the genre of horror?
Yes, it is another horror book. It is a I don't like I'm not like as smoothly practiced about talking about this
Mhm,
one as
mhm.
I am about the cut because I've been talking about it a lot lately. But it's unless they make me change my title, it's called These Familiar Walls. And it is about a woman in 2020. In January of 2020, her parents were murdered, in their home by two intruders, one of whom was revealed at that time to be someone she knew as a kid. And the other one killed their accomplice, the person who was the person, Nathan was his name. She knew Nathan as a kid. The other one killed Nathan, the other killer, in the house as well, and fled and has never been caught. And so she inherits the home, and it's the pandemic, and she's got two little kids, and they've been living in a condo, and she's working from home selling insurance, which I used to do. It's a terrible job. And she's tearing her hair out. And so, even though she's got some misgivings about moving into the house where her parents were murdered, into her childhood home, she does it. And begins to realize that there is this haunting presence menacing her family. And then also, it's a dual timeline story. So the story follows 2020, Amber and her family, and this menacing presence, and 1998, Amber as a kid living in the same house with her parents and her sister, meeting and befriending the boy who would grow up to murder her parents.
Oh my, I want that right now.
Thank you. It was a really fun one to write. That one was actually the first horror manuscript I ever wrote. But I was trying to get somewhere with that one in 2021, and literary agents across the board were like, "We are not ready for a pandemic story right now." And I was like, "Well, it's not really a pandemic story. Like, it's set during the pandemic, but like, my argument to that is, um, my book is not a pandemic story any more than John Carpenter's The Thing is an Antarctic research story. Like, it's that there's a setting, there's an influence there. Um, but I really was using the pandemic as a way to explore the isolation that you kind of rely on with haunted house stories.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
wasn't, and nobody gets COVID in the book. Nobody had, like, it's not a pandemic story. It just takes place during the lockdowns.
It's like a minor character.
Right.
It's not even, yeah, it's like a very minor character there.
Well, and I told
Um,
my agent when we first talked about that one, because that was an older manuscript at the time, and he wanted to know about some of my older work. And I told him at the time, I was like, look, I would be willing to tweak it and make it not be set during the pandemic, but I would prefer, if it's possible, to keep the pandemic aspect of it, even though it's not a pandemic story. That the isolation that I mentioned, and the stress, and the you can sit all day long and read history books and understand the facts of something that happened in the past, but fiction contextualizes it, I think. Reading
Agreed.
reading accounts that put you in the lives of people who were experiencing these things makes it real in a way that I think is important. And not to say that, oh, I think my book is going to be important, but I think that fiction generally that deals with that era will someday be important. So I wanted to try to keep it if we
I
could, and my
agree.
editor was totally on board with it, and I'm so excited about it.
I can't wait to read it. And I agree. I think I see where people weren't ready for it. Like Grey's Anatomy did it right away, right? Like that's like my first example. But
Yeah.
also, let's be honest, that is what happened. You cannot change that. And a lot of things are going to come out. And like you said, fiction contextualizes the fact that people were feeling very isolated.
Oh yeah.
And it's that right there, like you said, I said it's a minor character. It's really an important factor too to where her headspace is at the time, and that can't happen in just a normal, you know,
Yeah.
2017. There's big deal,
Right.
it's completely different.
Right.
Okay, so I need to know who some of your favorite horror writers are.
Yes. I just recently finished reading an arc of When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, and it's incredible. And I've read Mary before that, and I've read Rest Stop since then. And I bought Nestlings, but I have 2 children and 6 cats, and I don't know where any of my belongings go, so I have to find that. But Nat Cassidy has like rapidly gone like way high up on my list of favorite horror writers. Rachel Harrison, auto buy. I will buy and read anything she ever writes. She's phenomenal. Um, Clay McLeod Chapman, especially his book What Kind of Mother, which is not his newest book. His newest book is Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, and it's super intense. It's a wild ride. And there are a couple of horror authors who are debuting soon, and they're also like really good friends of mine, but also their writing is so good. There's MK Hardy, which is actually two people with one pen name, and their book The Need Fire is coming out on July 31st, and it is this like dark, swoony, very moody, like oppressive, gothic Scottish horror novel, like historical, sapphic horror novel, and it's
Sold.
beautiful, amazing. Yes, definitely. And then the other one, I cannot remember the date that it comes out, so I'm gonna look that up really quick. But it's called The Faceless Thing We Adore by
good name.
Hester Steele.
Great title.
Yeah.
And that one is coming out on August 5th. And it is this lush, beautiful, vibrant, horrifying horror novel that just, I mean, like, beautiful and terrible, and the descriptive writing is perfect, and the plot is amazing. It's a cosmic horror novel. Hester talks about it as Eat, Pray, Lovecraft, which is perfect. It's
I love that.
so good. Yeah, I could answer this question forever and ever and ever. I have so many favorite horror writers.
I love that. So then what is your biggest fear? We talk about this a lot since we cover so much ground on our podcast that we've brought up the things that scare us. I mean, I already just told you. Octopus, sea, the ocean, water, done. I can't,
I've got like the very serious answer and the kind of fun answer.
Let's go with serious, because I am very serious. Like, water is absolutely and I think that's a legitimate fear. I mean, nobody really knows what is down there, and I think that's why for a lot of horror writers, it's a great setting. I should say, not even good. It's great because you can create so much that could come out of any water-based setting, and it could be true.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows what's down there.
So the very serious answer is the idea that someday, if everything goes like exactly right, someday my children will die of old age, and I will not be there with them through that.
You went. I didn't know we were going to go down that road.
Now we
very
need the
serious
And
answer.
yeah.
The very
Crying.
serious answer.
Yeah.
The sort of fun answer.
That was too serious.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can cut that out.
No. I like it. That's an excellent answer.
Thanks.
Thought you were going to
the
say
kind of
like
fun answers.
spiders or something.
I mean, I don't like spiders, but I'm also like the house like bug remover and wasp killer, so like being like actively afraid of them doesn't serve me. So I got rid of that. The like fun answer to the question is I am afraid of the dark.
Me too.
And yes, if my husband is like not home at night or something, I will sleep with the closet light or the TV on all night. I'm afraid of if it's too dark and too quiet. I can't, and I am afraid of mirrors, especially in the dark. You can't let them know that you know that they're bad, but they are, and if they know that you know it, it's way scarier. So you got to act cool around the mirrors.
Yeah, I get that.
Oh, that's a good answer.
That is good.
Yeah, I hate the dark. That's as well.
So we're just rewriting your next book here. We're just going to write the next one. After your following one, we're going to have to write another one where you write something about mirrors. I think we've got it.
There might be some mirror stuff in these familiar walls.
Did you talk about the next one that's coming out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you ask
we
about
did.
this about 1998?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's explained.
Missed it.
I'm so sorry.
So-
You're going to have to listen to the interview.
Clearly.
Listen to the podcast.
No, and I only asked that because when I was looking at your website, I saw that it was referenced in connection to Riley Sager and one of his books, and I love Riley Sager as well. And I read, I think it was the Last Time I Lied, it was connected to, and that was a great book. And I always wondered. And he also writes a lot that was kind of set in the 90s. And I've noticed that's been a trope that I've seen a lot. And I'm wondering if writers are picking those decades because not a lot of technology. It helps kind of develop the plot. It kind of helps limit interferences maybe. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who hopes to be a published writer one day, I just kind of am trying to get into your heads and see what you're thinking.
So I think there's probably an element of it there, but I think another part of it is that like just in the way that 80s nostalgia, like Stranger Things, was like really powerful fictionally, like recently, I think that as you see the writers coming onto the scene now are going to be going for, when they go for nostalgia, we're starting to get to the age where that is the 90s instead of the 80s as much. I'm 38 years old. I was born in 86, so like some people might say you're an 80s baby, but I was a 90s kid. I was 4 to 14 in the 90s. And so that is when I think of my childhood or my nostalgia, it's always the 90s and 90s culture and 90s era stuff and horrible 90s fashion that I remember the best.
We're around the same age, girl.
Nice.
We're the exact same age.
Nice. Totally
Dale,
like
did you have...
separate question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Did you post a TikTok with my cover and going like, bleh? Was that, you look kind of like the person who did? No. Okay.
I don't think I'm that
somebody,
dumb.
No.
There's somebody on TikTok who got my book as an ARC and they were excited to read it, but the cover wigged them out so bad that they could like hardly get through talking about it without gagging.
I did not take what you just said that way. I was like,
oh no, I'm sorry. No. I watched that TikTok video like over and over, and they used like the Severance music in the background.
Epic.
And it was just like, even in such a peripheral silly way, seeing someone like with my book and anything to do with a show that brilliant, but then also they were like trying to get through talking about how excited they were to read my book, but they kept going like just from looking at it, and it was so funny.
That is hilarious. No, it
I
wasn't
thought you meant like as a review. I was like,
no.
Oh, no.
We will find them and we will kill them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bring up bad reviews like that. No, are you the person who didn't like my book?
Yeah.
No.
That's what I thought was
CJ,
coming. You were like,
our favorite.
You were like, by the way.
No.
About that TikTok.
Your podcast sucks.
Like I was acting nice, but psych.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So I have like a not creepy question to ask you, because I also really enjoy doing this in my free time, so I just had to ask about it. I had read that you enjoy baking and decorating cakes.
Bad at it.
How did you know? But I love this so much because I loved and used to do for fun, and also like it was like a side hustle for a little bit. I made like mini cupcakes. But I love the fact that you do cake and cake decorating. Is that something that you do to kind of like clear your mind and like reset, or do you just really enjoy experimenting with that kind of stuff?
I have like a love-hate relationship with it, where like I think I really, really love it, and then I'll start a baking project, and it won't be going the way I want it to, and I'll be like, this is fucking stupid, and I'm mad about it, but I'm still trying.
Yeah.
But it started when my stepson, who is 19 now, it started for his 10th birthday, and I made a birthday cake for him. And I feel like that was back when more people should have been aware of how problematic J.K. Rowling is, but we weren't all yet.
Yeah.
This was like 10 years ago. and I made him a Harry Potter birthday cake, and it was super fun, and he loved it. And people on Facebook told me what a good job I did, and praise,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And so I started making birthday cakes for him every year.
Incredible.
So yeah, but my favorite birthday cake that I made him was a supernatural birthday cake, and I did a 2-layer. He was 13. He was super into supernatural at the time, so I did a 2-layer red velvet cake with chocolate frosting, and I used the scraper, the thing that smooths the frosting, and I used it to press down on the top of the frosting and make floorboards. And then I used red frosting to make a demon trap on the floorboards, and I used sugar crystals to make it look like a salt circle. And I did 13 red candles that burned with red flames around it. And I didn't know when I made that cake that my stepson's maternal grandfather, who
Was a demon?
we would have the birthday parties at our house. So he was like very religious, and
Oh,
the cake
no.
made him deeply uncomfortable.
Oh, God.
That's
He was like, I don't know
incredible,
if I should eat
though.
this.
I'm obsessed with Supernatural. That's my favorite show.
I did not know this.
Oh my God. Can you make me this cake for my birthday?
I'll make a cake. If you want to come all the way up to the Thousand Islands region, I will make a cake.
Yay!
Well, Deena just wants to hear more about Supernatural, so
I can tell one little funny story about the supernatural stuff, which is that
okay, go ahead. Yeah, we'd love
when
that.
my son was a baby, and he was learning how to talk, the cat we had at the time was named Josephine, but we mostly called her Bean. And so my son's word for cat was Dean, because kitty, D, and Ean from bean. So he would say Dean. And so one day my husband and I were watching Supernatural, and my son was a baby, and he was like sort of sitting on the bed between us playing, and I was trying to engage him a little bit, and so I was telling him like the characters' names, and I was like, "That's Dean." And then after that, every time Dean came on the screen that day, my son would meow at him,
Oh.
and he would go,
That's so cute.
because that's how he meowed.
That's so cute.
It was precious.
That's adorable.
Make me do hearts.
That's a perfect way to end because it's like the sweetest little. Look, Dale's giving you the heart.
I saw that.
He's so
I
cute.
meow at him for different reasons.
Thank you so much, CJ, for coming on. I'm so sorry about the technical
Oh,
difficulties,
that's
but
totally fine.
we love talking to you, and we'll have to do this again when your next book comes out.
I would love that. Thank you guys for having me. This was really fun.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on your
Thank
first
you.
novel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.